Good evening. I hope you guys had a good meal. I hope you had a hot shower, and I hope you enjoyed it, because as we're still watching Irma and it's heading toward the north, looks like we're going to be impacted. And of course, one of the impacts is always, and we're expecting it, losing the power. And I know some of you have already reported that you have lost some of the power, so nothing we can do at this point. This is just the leading edge. So let me just kind of get to it and talk about a few things. First of all, I want to remind you guys, if you're in a multi-floor house, I want you to be in the lowest floor. If something is going to hit, it's going to hit the top floor or the outside first. The lowest floor is the safest floor within your home. If things come crashing down, your method of last resort is your mattress over your head in the bathtub. The mattress cushions you so you don't get hit on the head. The bathtub around you is really just to prevent things from kind of moving out sideways. Hi guys. Hi Kristen. We're going to focus in on Kristen. My buddy Kristen is my brother's neighbor when she was in New York, and I love her family dearly. She's in Melbourne, and that's where she's now living. And in living there, she has now welcomed herself to hurricane season. And so, you know, she's doing everything right. She really is. But she's in Melbourne, and we just kind of quick texted each other, but they have had an incredibly intense spiraling band, and if you watch it, you can see it pretty well. It is, you know, it's pretty solid. So here it is. It actually rotates in, and you can see it just north of Tampa and kind of bending around the Orlando area and then back down into Melbourne and then offshore. We don't really know the full extent of this. Within this band, we've got incredibly heavy rains, and then if you see the red things pop up, you got those tornado warnings that are coming out. Yes, I do know that in some areas that there is no power, which is kind of why I wanted to give a quick live shot, so that you guys can get some information before you literally and figuratively fall into the dark. And so this is the band that you're experiencing, Kristen. This is exactly what you have. Now, here's a little optimism, right? As soon as it keeps moving up and rotating through, you're going to get more of a break. Thankfully, I'm sure you're going to toast over that, but the center is still well to your southwest. So here's where it's located. It did make a second landfall in Florida. I'm trying to remember where they said it was. Marco Island. I think it crossed over Marco Island. But here's at 8 o'clock. The center is actually about 15 miles to the east-northeast of Fort Myers. It's also about 30 miles to the southeast of Port Charlotte. So it's 15 miles to the east-northeast of Fort Myers. So it's north of Fort Myers. It's southeast of Port Charlotte. So for those of you that are really not sure of where all these locations are, here you go. My buddy Kristen's over here. You've got Tampa. You guys know most of these areas. There's Orlando. So here on the West Coast, if you're not exactly sure the area that we're talking about, there's the Keys. Remember, Cujo Key was the first point of landfall. Here's Everglades City, Cape Romano, Naples. And early on, and my buddy Vicky will vouch for this, this is the area that I had picked out. And it wasn't a guess. It was kind of the area that I thought it would actually move ashore. So I'm pleased to see at least the things that I was thinking. The things that I was thinking were correct. And so it helps me to feel a bit better about that. Now, here's Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda. This is the area that was really largely impacted by Hurricane Charlie, that, of course, being back in 2004. Then here's Tampa, so here's the Bay, right? And there's St. Petersburg. So you've got one bay area there, another one here, right? These are the ports, so all the water pushes ashore. I imagine that most of you guys have seen some of these pictures, some of you that are still, you know, dealing with power, and you're seeing all of this, and why is everything so dry, and they're showing all the water pushed out, and it's almost eerie the way there's no water there. Well, it's rotating counterclockwise, so everything would be pushing away from the west coast of Florida, right? Because that's the way it's moving. It's moving away. So with the strong winds that are in the hurricane, with the strong push of air, the strong push of water, everything's going out. It won't continue that way, though, because here's the center. Remember, it's about 15 miles north. Here's Fort Myers, and there it is, right? It's south of Port Charlotte by 30 miles. And then 15 miles. Am I saying this wrong, by the way? No, 15 miles east-northeast of Fort Myers and 30 miles south of Port Charlotte. So here's the center. Now, you'll notice that the lower half seems to be breaking up. That's exactly what it's doing. We have strong winds high up. We have a little bit of drier air wrapping around, and so it's cutting off everything that this thing needs to keep going at the intensity that it once had. All of these things are really good signals, by the way. The downside of this is, well, everything to its north, or at least north of where the center is, all of that is pushing offshore. Notice what's happening on the back end, right? Now look at the Naples area. Now you're starting to see everything kind of push toward the coastline. So when you have seen the maps where they're showing you these expected storm surges, it's crazy because some of them will be excessive, and I'm going to show this really quickly to you. This is my down and dirty home weather studio, but this is the area that I'm talking about. You're looking at a 10 to 15 foot storm surge, and you're seeing why. That's where everything is really slapping the shore. Lesser amounts along the Atlantic coast, and all of that primarily, yeah, you're in the house, aren't you? Primarily because as it rotates this way, a little deeper on the Atlantic side, the shelf is deeper, and so there's a little more room for the water to go. It's always a higher storm surge on the Gulf side. And so even the expectation from the Hurricane Center verifies that. You've got 10 to 15 feet. Now this is the average height of the water above high tide, and then you have waves on top of that, 5 to 11, 6 to 11. As we head up toward our neck of the woods, lesser amounts. So 6 to 10, then maybe 5 to 8. Now they've extended down. It's going to be between this, 4 to 6 feet. It may be that they're trying to time out as it moves up, the time of high or low tide. But the other part of this is it is weakening and will continue to do so as it moves over land. Okay, so we had a little exercise, I don't know, maybe 5, 6 o'clock. And I said to you guys, I know we're nervous. It's been long in terms of its duration. We've been doing this for a while. Breathe. The breathing exercise. And there's an app. Sandy, I forgot to, if you're with me, you can probably just shoot it to me real quick. But apparently there's an app for breathing. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. You have to breathe and relax because this is making everybody nervous. And when you're nervous, you're making persons next to you nervous, etc., etc. It's a chain reaction. You guys need to breathe. And part of the reason I want to tell you to do that, the people around you are impacted. And it is looking a little bit better for us. So keep that in mind as well. Lisa's breathing. Thank you. All right. So here we are. Here's all the rain. And you're seeing it across the state. And it's pretty significant. And, you know, we've talked about how big this thing is. So we've got from coast to coast entire coverage with the wall here, the eye wall at least, being in the center. And pretty much now entirely over land. There's the center, which is the eye. This is the true brunt of the hurricane. It's usually a little donut-shaped area, bagel shape, whatever circular shape you want to identify it as. But it is missing its lower half. And this is the impact of that really strong wind high up. And also the fact that, wait, Bonnie, what did you say? Your dog just woke up out of a dead sleep when she heard that. Is my voice familiar to her? Maybe she's going to be the true weather dog. That's hysterical, Bonnie. Actually, that makes me laugh. My producer is in-house. Tran is my producer. She's actually a long-range producer. She's off-site, and her off-site is actually in Atlanta. I know she's got some evacuees staying at her house. So I really appreciate you, and I do need you here. I need you in my IFB. One day we're going to figure all this out, and we'll do this, I don't know, maybe a little bit more technically, but right now it's down and dirty, and it's accurate information, at least to the best of my ability, and it's what we know is working for us at this point. All right, so those of you, and I'm going to go big. What do they say? Go big or go home? All right, we're going to change this around. Bear with me for a second. I wish I had music in the background. I don't know what you're going to get. So much better. I needed to just get rid of the shine. You guys don't need to be seeing all of that, so let's do this. All right, well, you're going to get shine no matter what. All right, but you got light. Okay, let's get rid of that. Here we go. This is a beautiful thing, isn't it? All right, see the full extent of the hurricane? And again, if you look at the lower third of the peninsula, that's that lower third. Oh, finally things are improving, right? Now, there's still some limited rain, but it's really, really of a scattered variety. Okay, so it's working well. Thank you. How come you can't hear or see? Just tap your screen, Susan, because everybody else seems to be seeing and hearing, so I'm not sure that it's me. I think you guys are okay. Debbie, you are so welcome. I hope you and John are actually doing great at this point, and I'm expecting Jonathan and Frank to actually sing a new weather song.
But here, look at this. I want you guys to see some things that are a little bit more positive right now. They have been enduring this stuff since yesterday. Remember, it was really about 8 o'clock in the morning when the wind started to really pick up across the lower tier here. Yeah, the center crossed over by Cujo Key this morning, but the hurricane stuff started, so the breaks are coming. And the breaks are going to be really welcome because you guys know this, as the wind and the rain, all that's coming, it's haunting. The wind is so loud when it's moving quickly, and it's, it's a little eerie, especially since, we're at the nighttime hour. And, it'd be nicer if we could kind of see what was going on. All right, so the center is 15 miles to the northeast of Fort Myers. That's the center. There's still a lot of eye wall here, but not so much on the back end. That's a good sign. The extent of the rain, pretty much from the eye all the way up. We've got pretty solid coverage. I don't imagine, Tran, if you're still there, that it's raining in Atlanta at this point, but you can see some of that rain's going to move in from the southeast. So look at the entire coverage. One more time, from coast to coast, east to west, you've got rain moving into the Atlantic coastline, not the Atlantic coastline, the Atlantic coastline of Georgia, and then moving into the lower half of the state. Now, this is not necessarily really intense, but you may get some wind gusts with this, so don't be surprised about that. In this area, we're up in this area, and I'll focus it on a better radar. Some scattered, it's been mostly light. It's actually been more blowing around because the winds have been picking up. All right, is the eye further to the east and more overland than we originally... Roseanne, and I'm not saying this to be cocky or anything. It's not what I didn't expect. And even early on as we were talking about all of this, and I cautioned everybody to not bite when you saw the wobbles, right? It would oscillate a little bit either right or left, but it would stay within the cone. And honestly, in its entirety, and my buddy Victoria Brewer is here. She's my witness because I don't remember when we were chatting. It may have been either Monday or Tuesday night. Kind of told her what I was thinking at that point. But I honestly have expected it to stay to the east. And when it wasn't doing that turn, I was getting a little nervous. But the turn did happen. And as the turn happened, then it hovers along the coast. All of this bodes well for us. Because you've got the eastern half across land. You've got some slowdown because of friction. You've got dry air, some strong winds. All this is really looking a whole lot better. So one more time, let me remind you, here's the center. Here's the H. So even as it moves, and it continues to move generally toward the north, because even at 8 o'clock, that's the motion, north at 14. But, as I posted, we're still on the upper edge of a Category 2 hurricane. 110's the limit. We're at 105. So the winds do continue to drop. Again, guys, breathe. The winds are dropping. Why is it dropping? Circulation's over land. It doesn't do well over land. It does better over water. So we're going to cut that off because that's enough of that. We're going to keep it moving up. It can take more, not a true north, but a slightly west of north direction and then kind of head our way. But and let's play it out. We've been doing this game as well. We play it out. It moves more directly toward us. It moves more directly toward us as a much weaker system than was first anticipated, primarily because it has taken a path over land. And that land thing, it's disrupting the circulation, cutting off the fuel and adding friction. And all of that is suggesting then that what is 105 right now is still a hurricane, but its continued momentum up weakens it to a tropical storm. A Kara was barking at the trees outside our apartment. Pine trees are awkward. And I'm guessing it's getting really noisy by you. Are you still in Destin, Jessica? Is that where you are? And did they do anything? Did any of the coastal residents, because obviously that's what Destin is, did any of them evacuate? Yeah, Perry and Taylor County, you guys have been getting it. Let's take some closer shots at radar because I want you guys to see locally here because we've been looking at everybody else. Kristen, I'm so glad you're safe, and I promise you that this noise will end pretty soon, and then you'll finally get a little bit of a break. Here's us. Here's Tallahassee. Here's Perry. You guys have had it nonstop, and intermittently it's been a little bit heavier, but notice the motion. It's coming in this way. And this way, by the way, is southeast, and it's pushing overall toward the northwest. But again, this is the big rotation around low pressure. That's the way it moves, counterclockwise. So that's the way we're expecting it to. The whole system is moving up. The rotation is counterclockwise. So the center of the hurricane continues to move north, but the bands of rain are moving and rotating like this. So expect that motion to continue. So we're going to watch them roll in, and then they may drop off, moving up, and then they're going to drop down. Not a direction that you're used to, but Now you are, because you've been instructed on it. Nursing homes evacuated in the Destin area. Is that what you're saying, Jessica? In the Destin. And so this is right now what we're experiencing. The other side of this, of course, is that we've also seen some winds and some wind gusts. And it's starting to get, I think, I don't want to say it's on our nerves. The whole thing's been on our nerves. If I never hear the name Irma again, it will make me really, really happy. This has been the longest lasting, I think, hurricane that we have watched impact our area for such an incredibly long period of time. They keep modifying and adjusting. Again, don't pick out one thing and go with it. Everything moves, everything changes. Agree or disagree, it doesn't really matter, but we are at the almost 10 o'clock hour, and we have had some wind gusts that are around tropical storm force, and this was the earliest arrival, but the same kinds of winds, these tropical storm force winds, by the time we head into the early morning hours after midnight, in the extreme southeastern Alabama area and southern Georgia, you guys are going to see the same kinds of winds. So be aware of that. Now, by the way, Irma keeps moving to the north. We start to see the influence of tropical storm force winds. They start at 39. They top out at 73. Inside that large wind field is a smaller area with hurricane force winds. Again, the good news, and I'm just trying to find these little nuggets for you guys, it's a smaller area, and the area does seem to be decreasing. And a lot of that is simply because it's overland. A lot of people did voluntarily evacuate. I think a lot of people did voluntarily evacuate because the size and the intensity was just, honest to God, so scary. All right, there's your satellite view. And if you didn't, on radar, believe that it was decreasing in intensity, this may sell it. I think it does, or at least reasonably it does. Circulation moving. Here, let me put the grid on for you. Here's your latitude and longitude. So you get, lines to help you figure out direction. So if you watch the center, remember around the Marco Island area, north, and now it's about 15 to the northeast. They probably have a position update, by the way. Let me go back here for a second. Well, where are we? Let's go back here. I guess we can't. We can go from here. There we are. Well, they'll probably come out with the 10 o'clock pretty soon. 9 o'clock, it is expected to turn toward the north-northwest. Unofficial observing site in Moore Haven just measured an 89-mile-an-hour wind. Okay, so right now 35 miles to the east-northeast of Fort Myers, continuing to move away from the Fort Myers area, and it's still holding, at least at the 9 o'clock hour, 105-mile-an-hour winds. So, again, expected to turn toward the north-northwest. All right, so we're looking at a track. It has been moving to the north, and we are expecting a little bit of a bend. Not true northwest, but a little bit west of north, so almost a little bit of a deflection, and that's why it really does head more toward our direction. But again, I just want to remind you guys that even as it does so, it is a weaker system than when it made its first or even second landfall, or even as it's moving across the central Florida area. The longer it sits, the better it is for us. So the point of it being overland has really, honestly, kind of helped it to lessen the impact here. And what kind of impacts are we getting? So you guys already know, it's pushing onshore. Where it's pushing onshore, water's high, surge is high. So that's your storm surge stuff. We have the hurricane warnings. You guys know this. That means we have these conditions, and they're pretty much on our doorstep, but 36 hours, purple's hurricane, orange tropical storm. So you guys are not out of the woods. And look at this, by the way, if you didn't realize it. You do have tropical storm force. I don't know why I keep saying that. I think it's just being tired. Tropical storm warnings all the way up, and that does include the Atlanta area. You guys are not out of the woods. And even up along the coastline of South Carolina, Charleston through Savannah, way down to the state line in Florida, you've got your tropical storm warnings. Interior of Georgia, except the extreme northern end. And then the eastern half of, maybe it's the eastern third of Alabama, and down to it's really the Okaloosa, Walton County line, and then over toward Indian Pass, at least along our coastline in Florida, we also have the tropical storm warning. So that's been extended a little farther north, but remember, that's because now in 36 hours, you're going to get some of that stuff. Again, far less than what's happening down here. Okay, so we've had a storm surge, we've got a hurricane warning, tropical storm warning. big picture. This is that GO 16, the really nice imagery that, you know, it's a newer satellite that is not operational, but they're sharing some of the pictures that it's getting. And you can see the sharp, crisp center that is not quite as intense looking as it was earlier today, obviously all throughout. Rainfall estimates, they've gone up and down a little bit, and I've said to you guys, look at 6 inches and go plus or minus 2, at least up here. So not a real big flooding event. Some lesser amounts in the panhandle, a little bit more for us, and a whole lot more as you head more toward the east and, of course, down to the southeast. Roseanne goes, your niece goes to private school in Atlanta. They canceled it tomorrow. They should. Honestly, with these winds and the situation and people hearing the name, and I think what comes to mind is how serious and intense it was. You know, it's one day. I think if they were doing what we're doing, which is a whole week, I think they'd be pushing a panic button. But I think the one day is certainly within the realm of responsibility for them. So kudos for them for, you know, doing a response that's pretty rapid. And kudos to us, and us is all of us in the state of Florida, for doing everything that we're doing in such a timely fashion. Also notice that this is through Thursday, so it's not just a one-day event. This is in the life cycle of the system. And now we're starting to see a decrease in what's, you know, now going to happen. This is additional forecast rainfall, because as I said before, the rain is starting to let up a little bit in the extreme southern end of the peninsula. So finally a little bit of a break. Good news there. Here's more of a colored view of those tropical storm force winds, and then there is that. All right, so let me, I don't know what you want to let me do. I'm going to let you watch this for a second. I'm going to see if I can't get a report of what's happening in Tallahassee. Only because, and I know you guys can tell me this, because it's windy out there, but my dog isn't barking. By the way, dinner good? Hot meal? Hot shower? Did you guys enjoy, you know, electricity, as we call it? I know there's a delay. I'm just actually waiting for you guys to have some sort of response. All right, so this is interesting. I actually haven't gone here. So busy doing other things. This is Tallahassee. All right, so here's Tallahassee, and on their website, this is weather.com/TAE, which is the Tallahassee 3-letter identifier. They have the same map that you see on the hurricane centers. They have a storm surge threat. So this is their graphic, and then here's your arrival. It's that same picture I've been showing you, so there are no surprises here. That's the tropical storm force wind. So again, it's the evening hours for us. And then, you know, as we head toward the early, this is just after midnight hours, you know, that's when we see the wind start to increase. And so you've got your hurricane warning. You see the different colors over here. There's a whole lot of colors and a whole lot of dangers. And one more danger that I probably didn't add is the fact that, think about how chilly it's been today, right? We're in the 60s. We've got that cool, dry air because that front came down, stalled out, right? And it helped as it pushed and stalled out, allowed for some of that drier air to come in. But that collision with the tropical air can twist up the air, the atmosphere. And so we have also the possibility, and I just want to mention it, we have also the possibility, Sue, join us again, of tornadoes. So somewhere underneath this, there is a tornado watch. And that would be for all of these counties. And if I could pull up SPC quickly, we would see it. But it does not include up here in North Florida, though it does include Dixie. So that's extreme to our east, Baker, Hamilton. So some of the counties, I'm going to have to pull up a map on that one. Because I think it's important for us to see exactly where that is. Let's see, information. Well, I know it's SPC. Let's go. Down and dirty. Okay, here it is, SPC. All right, let's see where the tornado watch is. Let's see which counties are involved and how far north it goes, and see if any of us in these counties, and you can see the area right there. All right, let's get closer to this. Okay, I somehow blew that. I used to be really good at this. So here are the watches. Here is the most recent watch, and we'll go here for it. Okay, So here's Tornado Watch. Let's see exactly who it's for. Here it is. All right, so not quite Leon County, not quite us, Jefferson County, but just to our east, and those were the counties that I was looking at in the summary, but the picture sells it a little bit better. All of this area is under a tornado watch. That's because, again, cold, dry air, warm, humid. We have seen some of the warnings come out, but now we have the entire area in a watch, and I'm looking at this. Right now they have it effective until midnight, and we'll watch. Because as everything lifts, they may allow for some of it to expire, or they may extend a new one to certain areas. It may be extended west, so be aware of that. I just want you guys to know that these are all of the potentials, and there's your outline. In case you didn't really realize where those counties were, these are all the counties that are under the watch. That's the possibility of tornadoes till midnight. That, of course, in addition to everything else that we're expecting, which is rain, wind. Oh, that's right, this thing called Hurricane Irma. All right, let's see what's happening in the Tallahassee area. So I'm going to click in, and we're going to just kind of take a look around and see what the observations are. Let's see what the winds are doing. Right now, look at that. We're cold. I know you guys up north are thinking we're crazy when we say it, but it's 64 degrees. We have a steady wind from the northeast at 18, and the gusts are about 30. So again, we don't even have not the true bands at this point. It's the big, larger outflow with all that, but that's what's happening right now. Let's see what else is happening, because this is going to give us some more local reports. So we've got some temperatures that are basically low to mid 60s all across this area. And I'm seeing some pretty good winds. That's really what I wanted to look at this point. What am I looking at? I guess this is the top wind. Apalachicola, you win. Ding, 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 ding. Highest sustained wind is 28. The gusts are up to 39. And the coastal areas, and this is why I wanted you guys to evacuate first. This is where the impact, of course, is the greatest. But look at all the gusts. You know, they're all hovering, or a lot of them are hovering around. Oh, I may be dinging the wrong place. This gust is a little bit higher, though, in Cross City, right? 41, but the sustained is at 25. So to that end, Apalachicola's got you beat. But we've got some really strong, these are the gusts so far that we're seeing, the winds, and these are the gusts that we're seeing. That's sustained, and that's the peak within that sustained wind. So some pretty good gusts that we're seeing. And if you're thinking that it's starting to get a little noisy and breezy out there, you're exactly right. And then the rain may start to, move in a different direction. Most of the rain that we're seeing also, again, these are just the conditions right now. It's been mostly light. We haven't really seen the thunderstorms, none of that heavy activity at this point. But again, most of that is because the heavier stuff is to our south. So the stuff we're seeing now is that light green, right? The lighter, the darker green, that's the light rain. It'll be a little bit heavier here to our east, and I think we had somebody say from around the Deacle Beach, the Keaton Beach, those areas, Taylor County, Dixie County, you guys are getting a little bit more, and it's coming up. So the whole thing comes up, the rains move this way, they will rotate around, and even if it were to stay due north, we get some. But we are still looking at more of a west-northwest motion, which kind of takes it still to the east of the Leon County area, but as a far weaker system than when it was first forecast and first made, the first two landfalls on the state of Florida as the major hurricane. So we have seen some changes tonight. The changes we have seen is a little bit of weakening. We haven't seen a shift in the path that has been overall very consistent, and then there's far less of a chance that it could move either well to our east or well to our west, because you'll notice that the cone is here and it's much more narrow. So yeah, minor adjustments perhaps, but even at this, the worst, S, is tropical storm. So the continued weakening will happen. And all that's really good news. And Jack's here, and Jack works at the Hurricane Center, and you guys have done an incredibly awesome job, and we're all very grateful for all the long hours and the hard work that you guys have put in to provide all this really accurate information, and you guys have really done a fantastic job on the forecasting of this. So we all send our appreciation to you guys. And really, Jack and I were in grad school together. That's how long I've known him. And he's from Louisiana, so, he has seen, and he probably one of the best people I know with hurricane forecasting. He's awesome, and we all trust him about that. So we're not out of jeopardy. We're getting a storm. We're getting a hurricane. as to the intensity as when it impacts us, we don't think it's going to be a major hurricane. It could still be a hurricane, but it's a weakening one because it's coming up, and we've had a little bit drier air, some wind shear, and some things like it being across land to help weaken it and slow down the winds. So not as severe as perhaps what it first indicated, but it's still coming our way. So we stay prepared, we stay hunkered down, and all these winds will probably topple some trees and take out some of these power lines and these power poles, and you know what that does. It puts us all in the dark at the same time. So you guys have your supplies and you're all set, and at this point, honestly, I'm going to call it a night only because a lot of us are starting to lose a little bit of power, and so with the sporadic power outages, I want you guys to be safe and to power up all of the other devices that you guys have so that you at least have some, you know, I don't know, connection with the real world as you head toward tomorrow. And I think it'll help us. Look, we're all in this together. We've done everything that I don't even know what's going on with this. I got to get a haircut. I don't even know why I'm saying this to you guys. I'm going to get some sleep one day this week. I don't imagine it's going to be tonight. We're all going to be listening for the noises, and it really is hard to kind of fall asleep when we know what's coming and what we're trying to expect. I want you guys to breathe, and I want you to try as best you can to relax. It is coming. It is coming as a little bit weaker system, but it's coming. We still have winds. We still have wind gusts. It doesn't take much to topple trees, to take out power lines. So be ready for that stuff. I'm breathing a little bit easier. I hope you guys are breathing a little bit easier. I hope you had a nice hot shower, because that may be the last one for a few days. We are all hoping for the very best outcome at this point. I will try to catch up with you guys in the morning. But at this point, I just want you guys to be safe within your homes, and I really do want to power everything down. And I want you guys to make sure that all of your electronics are, you know, at their fullest power so that you at least have them to get some information out to your family and friends. Check in with them, as my buddy Sandra had said. It's her tip, so I'm going to share it and give her the attribute here. But on your cell phone, you don't need Wi-Fi. You don't have to have data or data access to use it. You can change your greeting. If you change your greeting to check in because you don't have cell tower use, check in and say, here's the time, here's the day, and I'm good right now. And this way, when somebody calls your cell phone, they'll get that information. You can update it as often as you like, too, by the way. So keep doing it so that, you know, everybody that's interested in your well-being, they get the information. Try not to make anybody else nervous. You know, and I think we've all done this. There's Zello and all these apps that you can do. And I know there's a check-in. We haven't had the hurricane yet. You know, I'm going to laugh at you guys if you check. Don't check in. Don't check in until it comes. And then we know after it moves through that you guys are safe. We are crossing our fingers. We're saying little prayers for the very best possible outcome, but we're starting to get the leading edge of some heavier rains, and I want you guys to absolutely be safe. So remember, you want to be in the bottom floor. If things go crazy, if something crashes into the roof of your house, that's why. And your method of last resort is your mattress over your head in the bathtub. So I want you guys to take care tonight. We'll try to chat tomorrow. Let's see how everything goes. And we're rooting for all of us at this point because it's a big state, it's a big hurricane, and it still has a lot of energy that it's going to spend here, and maybe a little bit more time here as well before we say adieu and it goes to Georgia. So good night, everybody. Please be safe, and we'll chat tomorrow.